The weirdest part wasn't that my doorbell camera recorded a monk outside my flat. It was that every time I opened the live view, there was nobody there. I moved into the flat in late August. It was an older HDB block, the kind where the corridors were long, quiet, and always smelled faintly of rainwater and old paint. My unit was near the end of the corridor, just before the staircase landing. I lived alone, and because I usually came home late from work, my mother kept nagging me to install a smart doorbell. At first I thought it was unnecessary, but after a few nights of hearing sounds outside my gate, small things like slippers dragging past my door or someone pressing the lift button and not getting in, I bought one. It was a simple doorbell camera, nothing expensive. It detected motion, saved short clips, and sent alerts to my phone. For the first 2 weeks, it only recorded normal things. My neighbor walking past with groceries, a delivery rider leaving food at the wrong unit, the cleaner sweeping the corridor in the morning. Then, one night at exactly 2:13 a.m., my phone vibrated. I remember the time because I had fallen asleep on the sofa with the TV still on. The notification said motion was detected at my front door. I opened the saved clip. The footage showed my corridor in that greenish fluorescent lighting HDB corridors always have at night. Near the lift lobby, standing completely still, was a monk. He was wearing a simple saffron robe. His head was lowered slightly, and his hands were held together in front of him. He wasn't walking. He wasn't looking around. He was just standing there, facing my unit. I stared at the clip for a few seconds, then opened the live view. The corridor was empty. I switched on my living room light, went to the front door, and looked through the peephole. Nothing. I opened the wooden door but kept the metal gate locked. There was nobody outside. The lift lobby was empty. The corridor was silent. Even the staircase landing at the end looked dark and still. I told myself it was probably an old clip that got delayed. Or maybe the camera had glitched and saved footage from earlier. Still, I checked the timestamp again. 2:13 a.m. That was the first recording. The next night I tried to forget about it. I went to bed earlier, put my phone on silent, and convinced myself that there was a normal explanation. But at 2:13 a.m., my phone lit up again. Motion detected. This time I was awake. I opened the live view first. Empty corridor. Then I opened the saved recording. The monk was there again, but he was no longer near the lift lobby. He was halfway down the corridor, closer to my unit. He stood in the exact same posture, head slightly lowered, hands together, body perfectly still. I watched the clip 3 times. There was no sound except the faint hum of the corridor lights. No footsteps, no rope movement, no shadow passing in or out of frame. He was just there. I went outside immediately with my keys in my hand. Again, the corridor was empty. The distance from the lift lobby to my unit was not long. There was nowhere for someone to disappear that quickly unless they ran down the stairs. So I walked to the staircase landing and looked down. Nothing. No footsteps, no door closing, no lift moving. Just that heavy silence you only hear in an HDB corridor after midnight. The next morning I called the doorbell company's support number. The guy on the phone told me it might be a motion detection error, reflection, compression issue, or delayed cloud upload. He sounded like he had given that answer many times before. When I asked how a delayed clip could show the same person at the same time 2 nights in a row, he paused for a moment and said I should reset the device. So I did. I reset the app, updated the firmware, deleted the old clips after saving them to my phone. For 1 night, nothing happened. Then, on the 4th night, it came back. 2:13 a.m. Motion detected. This clip was only 12 seconds long. The monk was now directly outside my gate, close enough that the camera captured the folds in his robe and the curve of his shoulders. His face was still not visible. His head was bowed too low, but I could tell he was standing less than 1 meter from my door. I opened the live view immediately. Empty. I don't know how to explain the feeling of watching an empty live feed while holding a recording from seconds earlier, showing someone standing right there. It made my flat feel wrong. Not haunted exactly, just not private anymore. Like the door was no longer a boundary. That morning I saw my neighbor Madame Tan watering the small plants outside her unit. She was in her late 60s and had lived on that floor for years. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I asked casually whether she had seen anyone coming around late at night. She asked, "Delivery, ah?" I said no. Then I showed her the recording. The moment she saw the monk, her expression changed. She didn't scream or act dramatic. She just stopped watering the plants. Then she asked me, "Your unit is 11-184, right?" I said yes. She looked toward my door and said, "Maybe don't open if you hear knocking." That was all. I asked her what she meant, but she shook her head and said she wasn't sure. She said maybe the camera was faulty, but she wouldn't look at the video again. That night I decided not to sleep in the bedroom. I stayed in the living room with the lights off and my phone in my hand. I don't know what I was expecting. Part of me still thought I might catch someone playing a prank. At 2:13 a.m., the notification came. Motion detected. I opened the saved clip. The monk was standing outside my gate again. Same posture, same lowered head. But this time, there was audio. 3 soft knocks. Not loud, not aggressive. Just 3 slow knocks on metal. I froze, because while the recording played those knocks, I was sitting less than 5 meters away from the front door. And I had heard nothing. No knock, no vibration, no sound from outside. I opened the live view, empty. Then I stood up, walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The corridor was clear. I opened the wooden door. The metal gate was untouched. No one was there. But something about that moment made me feel colder than the other nights. Because the knocking on the recording sounded close. Too close. Like it had not been recorded from outside the gate. The next morning I waited until I saw Madame Tan again. This time I didn't ask casually. I showed her the clip with the knocking and asked her what happened in my flat before I moved in. She didn't answer right away. Then she told me the previous owner was an elderly man who had lived there with his younger brother. The man had been sick for a long time. One night, he passed away inside the flat. After that, relatives came and went for several days. There were prayers, visitors, and a monk who came more than once before the funeral. Madame Tan said she didn't know the details. She only remembered seeing the monk standing outside the unit late at night, waiting while the family prepared things inside. Then she said something I couldn't stop thinking about. He always stood outside quietly, like waiting for someone to let him leave. I asked her what that meant. She said she didn't know. And maybe she really didn't. That night I unplugged the doorbell. I removed it from the app, took it off the wall and put it inside a drawer in the kitchen. I thought that would be the end of it. At 2:13 a.m., my phone vibrated, motion detected. I sat up on the sofa and stared at the notification. The device was not mounted outside anymore. It was inside my kitchen drawer. I opened the app. There was no live view, just one saved recording. The thumbnail was black. I pressed play. The camera angle was wrong. It was not showing the corridor. It was showing my front door from inside the flat. The wooden door was closed. The metal gate was behind it. My shoes were lined up near the entrance, exactly where I had left them. And standing in the corner of the frame, facing the front door, was the monk. He was inside my flat. His back was to the camera. His head was still lowered. His hands were still together. He did not move for the entire clip. For 12 seconds, he just stood there, facing the door. And that was when I realized I had misunderstood every recording. He had never been trying to get in. He was already inside. He was trying to get out. I moved out 3 days later. Before I left, I reset the doorbell one last time and threw it away. I don't know who took the flat after me. I don't know if they installed their own camera. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I still check my phone out of habit. And every time the screen lights up around 2 in the morning, I wait a few seconds before looking, because part of me is still afraid I'll see another notification. Motion detected. 2:13 a.m.